Hello, lovelies. My name's Freedom. I wanted to talk today just quickly about the prevalence of narcissists and psychopaths in the real world or the big world. What I mean by that is I run a channel on narcissism, but when I talk to people, they're talking about, the narcissists that they had a relationship with or that they were married to. But the reality is that narcissists and psychopaths walk amongst us in the real world, and they gravitate towards positions of power and authority where they get praise and kudos and money and get to rub shoulders with, the elite. So, interestingly, you've probably heard the term, the 1% elite. We are the 99%, they are the 1%. Okay, so what I would suggest is there's a high percentage of sociopaths and psychopaths in that 1%, and if not in that 1%, trying to get into that 1%. So the higher up the food chain you go, the more likely you are to come across psychopaths. They are ruthless. They do not consider us all to be equal by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the complete opposite. Part of their narcissists and sociopaths or psychopaths, it's two disorders: antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. And then there's the dark triad, which a lot of these individuals also may have, but they'll never go and be diagnosed. Absolutely never, 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 because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. So given our current political climate, I think people really need to start thinking outside of the box and just, starting to use critical thinking more. The problem that we have currently is that the vast majority of the population have been indoctrinated since day one, and they don't even realize it. They've been put in front of the television since day one. They've been put in childcare centres, government-run schools for their whole entire education. They've been taught not to think, not to question, never question authority, always ask permission. They've been taught that they don't know as much as experts, and that they have to listen to experts. And at the end of the day, what happens is, people don't trust themselves. They don't trust their own intuition and their own instincts. This is God-given stuff. This is what you're born with. This is the innate skills that you were born with. The instinct and intuition. So, like I said, the vast majority are, brainwashed. They don't realize they're brainwashed. They sit in front of the television every night to get their information, their news and information. I don't watch television, and I tell you something, when I watch TV, it feels like I've been assaulted, like mentally assaulted, between the sounds that they use, so the music, the language that they use, the hysteria that they're promoting at the moment. I mean, this is a full psychological attack that you're witnessing in the media. One thing you need to know about the media is they're not independent news sources. They all have the same bosses who print out and send the same news reports, articles, whatever, down through the pyramid to the editors, who then forward it on to the journalists, who will sit there and read it as though they believe it, know it, understand it. They don't know it. They don't understand what they're saying. They're just reading. Half of these people don't even have a clue of the words that are written on the paper, let alone understanding the big picture. But because most people know, trust, and like them, they will sit, listen to that person talking, absorb that as though it's fact and truth. The other problem we have at the moment is there is a huge level of censorship like I've never experienced in my entire life. And I've been around for almost half a century. Jesus Christ, that's scary. Anyhow, literally, the level of censorship is out of control between your fake fact checkers on, social media. The fact that all of the social media platforms have the algorithm, in their own algorithms, they have tools that they can use. So Project Veritas just came out, a Facebook whistleblower just came out talking about people that are, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get this video flagged, so we'll just call it quack scene. Hesitant. Now, Project Veritas came out with, like I said, whistleblower, straight from corporate Facebook, specifically stating that people who post things where they say, oh, I know someone who died from the quack scene, that comment will be pushed down by the algorithm so that people won't get to read it. So if that, people are clicking on, they won't see those comments. That is disturbing when people's real life reality is being dictated, manipulated, and controlled by the media. That is huge levels of censorship and propaganda. Your eyes do not deceive you. So just the other day, right, in London, huge turnout for people who were opposed to the quack scene pass XYZ port. And those people, they took videos, they took footage, they put drones up. Hundreds of thousands of people turned up. Now, according to the BBC, who were one of the only media sources that even reported on it, they said 100 anti-vaxxers turned up to this event. Not, hundreds of thousands of concerned citizens. See the language, see how they're labeling people? Anyone who tries to question anything is being labelled a conspiracy, XYZ 3.2 theorist. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but this is the reality. This video will get flagged by these words if, I don't do it. So I'm going to have to do what I have to do to get the message across. So these people took this footage, real life footage. They saw it with their eyes. And yet, if you go by what you read in the media, they're saying 100 people. And that they're all just these crazy people, crazy conspiracy theorists. Once we start labeling people and using that as a way of avoiding what they're talking about, not thinking what they're talking about, you know that there's an agenda. Okay, silencing entire parts of the population and labeling them as, just crazy people, there's an agenda behind that. And you have to ask yourself, going back to the 1% and the prevalence of sociopathy within that 1%, you have to ask yourself, what is going on? What is actually going on here? Because you're not going to get told by the media. They're not going to come out and tell you the truth. They don't even know the truth. They think they're journalists. They think what they're doing is journalism. I'm a former media student. I've worked in media. I know how this works. These people are just as brainwashed as you. They believe in, not as you, but as the general population. They're just as brainwashed as the general population. They believe so much that they are journalists and that what they're doing is news, that it's too much. They can't handle the reality. It creates this cognitive dissonance where they cannot wrap their heads around the fact that maybe what they're reporting isn't actually news, and maybe what they're reporting is propaganda, and maybe they are part of a huge human experiment on humanity. That creates cognitive dissonance. The brain can't rationalize between those two extreme points of view, so it just kind of gets confused and just goes back to, well, I just won't think about that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I'll go back to being a journalist and a media person. So you can't trust your media. It's turning out that we can't trust the people in government. It seems to me like there's kind of two lots of people in government. There's people who think that governments and democracy works the way it's supposed to work. And then there's the people that know how corrupt it is and how money, at the end of the day, money and power is what really, creates worlds. Everything that happens in our reality is because of those with money and power. Our democracy's died. It's an absolute tragedy, and it's only going to get worse unless we all start snapping out of this cognitive dissonance. We ourselves are going through this cognitive dissonance. Everything we thought we knew about our reality and our world is turning out to not be real. Like I said, your media sources aren't giving you the truth. They're lying. They're blatantly lying. They're censoring other independent media outlets. They are controlling the narrative. They're only reporting on what they want to report on. So what the narrative allows them to report on. And so what I mean by this is, think about the hundreds and thousands, millions of people who die every single year. No one reports that. No one cares. We've got babies starving in Africa. Do you think the media reports on that? They don't ever report on that because they don't care, because it's not part of the agenda. However, with COVID, we've heard every single death, and the inflated ones. We've heard the, died with it, not cause of it. We've heard of, never had a test, never was proven anything, still written down. So we've heard of a lot of things, and every single death, they're running this tally. If they did that for every other death, human beings would be too scared to leave their house. They would, be in this state of fear where they quite literally would be thinking, oh my God, so-and-so, someone died just the other day walking down the street. Someone died in their bed. Someone died in their kitchen. Life would be terrifying if you focused only on, deaths. I mean, we all are going to die. That's one thing that we can guarantee. We're all going to die. And if you're like me and you have this kind of spiritual beliefs, you probably believe that maybe we do it again, or maybe we go somewhere better. It doesn't matter what your spiritual beliefs are, because we're in the here and the now, and here and now we are fighting a war that has never even been declared. No one has told us this is a war, but it is. It is a war. These people, like I said, they're lying. The media is lying to you. And they're, like I said, they're censoring and they're covering up. And the worst thing about it is they're all in cahoots with each other. So it looks as though, the people who are trying to warn you and trying to tell you the truth, it looks like, we're just all crazy conspiracy theorists. But that's just because, for example, the UN has just got, it's 110,000. So they just employed 110,000 volunteers. So they're volunteers, not even being paid, to fight on the digital front line. So these are the people that they've literally been told what the talking points are, what the argument is, what the narrative is, and they're going on social media, pretending to be average Joe, just surfing the net, having a bit of a chat on Facebook. This is not average Joe having a chat on Facebook. This is someone who is deliberately, like I said, going with the script, going with the narrative that they've been told. If this whole situation was real, there's a few things. They wouldn't, we would be seeing it with our own eyes. This is the first thing. We would be seeing it with our own eyes, not on television, in reality. Okay? We'd be seeing it with our own eyes. They would be throwing everything at it. Instead, what they did was they took a whole lot of products off the market. So your ivermectin, the hydrochloroquine, the quinine. So our grandmothers used to treat all of our flus with quinine. They used to just get grapefruit peels, citrus peels, and boil it up into a tea, and we used to drink that stuff, and yeah, it was gross, but the active ingredient, the quinine, is what is the same as what's in the hydrochlorate. It's got a ridiculous name, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the same active ingredient, right? So why would they take all of that off the market? Ivermectin, that's all been used. All of those have been used for 30 to 100 years. That's, the reality. And all of a sudden, now that we're in the middle of, this pandemic, now they take those off the markets because all of a sudden, we can't risk people using that. This is the stuff that you have to start thinking about. You have to be, getting clear on. Because if not, these people, they're ruthless and they've got an agenda. We don't know exactly what their agenda is. There's suspicions. We have suspicions, and that is that, we're running out of resources. It's, our population growth is too big. We're growing too fast. They're concerned that there's not going to be enough for them. They want to maintain control. They're not going to need us with artificial intelligence. The more jobs that can be done by robots, they're just not going to need us. They actually call us, it's quite grotesque, but they actually call us the useless eaters or feeders. Eaters or feeders, probably both. But that's the way they look at us. Like I said, they're sociopaths. They don't think that we have any value. So, if we were to die, that they don't care. I mean, sure, they'll get on camera and they'll cry crocodile tears and they will make you believe that they care. But that's the nature of narcissistic personality and antisocial personality disorder. They just don't care about people other than themselves and their own agendas. All right, lovelies. So, the reason that I wanted to talk about this is I just want people to start thinking for themselves and just asking the basic questions. Why the level of censorship? Why are they lying? Like, why is media lying? So, like I said, with the London protests, why did they lie and try and downplay it? Why do they have to label everyone? These aren't people who are anti-vaxxers. These are people who have all of their shots, they've got their kids done, and they know there's a difference between the quack scene and what is going on. Like, they know that that's not your normal, this is mRNA gene therapy. This is something completely different. The animal trials for this, all right, here's the scoop on this, right? According to Professor Dolores Cahill, she is an immunologist and virologist from Ireland. She is very smart. She's been part of their system. They've turned on her, right? They've edited her Wikipedia page. They've done things to turn the public's opinion against her. But she was part of their system for a very long time until she tried to speak up against it. That in itself should be a huge red flag, because this is exactly what psychopaths and narcissists do. They run smear campaigns. So as soon as you don't have value to them, as soon as you are not doing what they want, they will turn against you and run a smear campaign, which is exactly what they're doing to all of these doctors. And there is a considerable amount of them who are coming out and speaking up about this. They are running these smear campaigns. They are labeling them, like I said, anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists, because that, as soon as you put that label on someone, in these people's brains who've been brainwashed, they just go, oh, I don't need to think about this anymore. I just go back to watching Neighbours or Home and Away or, Married at First Sight or whatever ridiculousness they're watching on television. Meanwhile, they literally call television programs, like programming, the television programming. They're telling you what they're doing with the television. The CIA even said, if we can get a machine where we just sit people in front of it and they, we can put the messages out and brainwash them. They created it. That's what television is for. So turn off the TV. Please turn off your television. Like I said, media's just lying to you. It's just fact. Find people that you trust, okay? Build up relationships with people that you actually know and trust. Not just these superficial, weird freaking narcissists that, want to be famous and they love the fame. Like, if anyone's kind of motivated by fame or money, they probably don't have your best interest at heart. Okay, I've talked a lot. And to be honest, I don't even know if I'm going to put this up because two reasons. One, the only platforms that I'll be able to put this video up onto are platforms that are heavily censored. So you probably won't get to even see it. Or if I manage to get it up on any of the social media platforms, what will happen is they'll put fact check signage on it, or they'll run a smear campaign where they will add me to the list of voices and the list of names that they target. And I've seen entire, people's careers destroyed. Pete Evans is one person in Australia, for example, whose career was destroyed. They ran a smear campaign through all the different media outlets calling him a neo-Nazi. Anyone who knows Pete Evans, and I know a lot of people who do know Pete Evans because I live in the same area, know that Pete is not a neo-Nazi by any stretch of the imagination. But never let the truth get in the way of a good story. It was selling newspapers for a while. It was making headlines. There was a lot of people talking about it. There's a lot of excitement about it. And that's exactly what media is used for now. Like I said, it's used to shape and control the narrative. Okay, at the end of the day, we are out here. There is a resistance building, and you will find us, but you're going to have to do some searching. You need to get off Google. You need to get off their platforms. Check out Odyssey, check out BitChute, check out all the other alternative video sites and alternative social media platforms. That's where you'll find us. And as I said, one last point to remember, it's one of those things, right? If you haven't had personal experience with a psychopath or a narcissist, it's really hard to explain to you. It's like trying to explain, I don't know, what it's like to lose a child or have a horrific car accident or something. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it firsthand. But those of you who have experienced being in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, right, just, the levels of abuse, the levels that they'll stoop to, things that they will do, things that you never thought another human being would do, a human being would do to another human being. So what makes you think these people aren't in positions of authority and power? What makes you think they're not running the show right now? You have to look into it. I mean, just quickly, on the point of the quack scene, the companies that are rolling this out have criminal histories. They all have criminal histories, and quite considerable. So if they were actually an individual, for example, you would consider them a criminal. You wouldn't want to have anything to do with them, but because they're a company, they're getting away with it, They check out their records. This is a fact. You don't hear mainstream media talking about it, do you? No, because their bosses, it's like the shadow government. We hear the term shadow government. Same thing. Their bosses, they're out there controlling the whole thing. And yeah, I'm going to finish this up here now. I hope some of it gets through. Thanks for listening. Bye.